Assalamu alaikum. For those who are going to be with us, inshallah, do come closer. Please do come closer, inshallah. Barakallahu fiikum. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن شاء الله تعالى نستمر حيث وقفنا في آخر درسنا. We're going to continue from where we stopped in our last dars, and that would be when we looked into the fara'id of al-ghusl. And what did we say? قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى نفعنا الله به وبعلومه في الدارين. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit us with the knowledge of the author of this text that we are going through. قال باب فرائض الغسل, the chapter of the fara'id of ghusl. And we said فأما فرائضه فخمسة. When it comes to its fara'id, the obligations of ghusl, they are 5. فرائضه فروضه خمس فتنوي غسلك وعم كل الجسم بالما ودلك. And in أسهل المسالك they approve that by saying it is 5. وقلنا أن الأولى ماذا؟ النية, intention. والثانية تعميم الجسد بالماء, to do what? To fill the whole body with water, without specifications or methodology or whatsoever. Just making sure that water is spilled all over your body. Number 3, which follows along with that, دلك جميع الجسد. That is to make sure your whole body, while you are filling it with water, what do? You rub over it. Don't forget the word الدلك, that's what's important. And number 4, والفريضة الرابعة الفور, to follow up quickly without delay. Basically, when you are doing your ghusl, if you delay, it becomes an issue. مثلا, for example, nowadays we are used to showers. Now you might be wondering, how am I going to delay? But imagine if your shower is not working and you're expecting to use a bucket. Now while you're using a small toilet jug or maybe a shower jug and then you're showering yourself, then you delay a little bit, someone called you, you pick up your phone while in the toilet. That happens a lot. You already know, so many people pick up their phones in the toilet, right? That's exactly what happens. Now because of that, you're going to be delaying. And when your limbs dry, then according to certain conditions, you have to repeat. Not every case. Bear that in mind. And we explained about that. وَالْفَرِيضَةُ الْخَامِسَةِ, and the 5th pillar of fariḍah is تَخْلِيلُ الشَّعْرِ, to make sure your hair is filled with water. Now what we looked into also, we looked at the mujibatul ghusl. What are the things that lead to al-ghusl? So we said that وَمُوجِبَاتُهُ أَيْضًا خَمْسًا. Now you might not find it in the text. You might not find it in the text. Except for the text like this, which Al-Amin has. Now, وَمُوجِبَاتُهُ أَيْضًا خَمْسًا, and they are 5. He says that انقطاع دم الحيض والنفاس, انقطاع دم الحيض والنفاس, that the blood, the menstrual blood of a woman, maybe can be the monthly cycle or it can be after birth, postnatal, any one of those, once they come to an end, then they do what? They obligate the woman to take a shower, which is a ritual bath. Number 2, al-maut, the deceased, the one who has passed away. Number 3, al-wiladatu bila dam, a woman who gives birth without no blood of sort. Basically, they don't go through the whole postnatal cycle. They don't sit down for it. Some women go through that. Now, when they go through that immediately, for example, now, مثلا, a man, how can let me ask you, how can a talaq take only 1 day to expire and not 3 months? I've already given you the case here. After she gives birth. And what's the period?
Because it's until she's delivered the law to give her the talaq.
But she can be pregnant for 9 months, right? So should you give the talaq at the beginning of it, pregnancy, or when? Have you done it before?
Can it not be whenever? But
it can be whenever, yeah.
But if it's at the start, you don't have to wait to see if she's pregnant. If she's pregnant, then you have to wait till she gives birth.
Like in 24 hours means, for example, if she's pregnant, that's one case. And then she gives birth in the 24 hours, the talaq is finished. Does that make sense? That's one case. Another case, the talaq can take place immediately and it will never work out again. It's like a woman whom you married but did not consummate the marriage. That becomes talaq for good. You can't marry that woman anymore. It's finished.
What about the temporary marriage?
Temporary marriage. Nikah al-mut'ah. I think you're going to have to ask the Shia for that. I don't know about it.
Yeah, there was some issues with one of the sheikhs.
Let's not open that door. Another one is al-Islam. A person who embraces Islam, they have to take a ritual bath. Wal-janabah, and the janabah, is when you enter into a state of janabah. لكن تحصل بأشياء. You are only going to be in a state of janabah with the following reasons. And he mentions some here. لكن إذا نظرت إلى الحاشية, if you look at the حاشية, which is the explanation of this explanation, he goes even further on masail that I don't even want to get into. It's too graphic, I'll be honest with you. When I say graphic, I cringe reading it. But the ulama, you notice something though. If you look at it with the eye of the scholars, you end up realizing the scholars were geniuses because they left nothing out. They mention cases which are, okay, I'll tell you this. They mention cases which are beyond LGBTQ. Now ask yourself, what can go further than that? If you think there are cases worse than these alphabets that we have. Understood? There are cases which are worse than the pronouns. That's the honest truth. And if you go through the masail, you realize that human beings, some of them are literally created with no hearts. They don't care at all. They don't have emotions. They don't have hearts. If you don't have a heart, you're not going to be living, isn't it? Unless it's a miraculous human being who exists. We're going to have to ask those who get married to jinns, how did it work out? There are human beings like that, half jinn, half human. Don't ask me how I know that. Al-Muhim, I'll give you a simple scenario. If you look at the pronouns, you wouldn't find a case of a person who literally engaged in intercourse with a deceased. Think about it. And the scholars have spoken about this. And it doesn't mean, we shouldn't just make it stereotypical to men only. Even women do that as well. Yes. There are women that do that as well. Now that's one case. I'm not going to give you all of the cases. This is a case that you can think of. But if in this case, then do you fall in a state of janaba or not? And then the ulama go into pronouns as well. They mention all of those. Do men or women that do all of these stuff, do they fall in a state of janaba, yes or no? How, and everything else. But all of what you should know, according to what we have here, to make it easy, مغيب الحشفة أو قدرها من مقطوعها. What does that mean? It is the head or a piece, a part of the private part of a man, which enters into a hole which it should not enter, whether it's halal or haram. Because if you enter it, it will cause you to be in a state of janaba. Because if you don't want to fall into a state of janaba, then you should not open the doors. Once you open the doors, khalas. That's what happens. And then he says, وَلَوْ فِي فَرْجِ مَيْتَةٍ. Now look, in the simplest term, he mentions it. وَلَوْ فِي فَرْجِ مَيْتَةٍ. Even if it's in the private part of a dead person, on a dead body, أَوْ دُبُرٍ, or the back passage, or أُولِجَتْ إِمْرَأَةٍ ذَكَرُ بَهِيمَةٍ فِي فَرْجِهَا. Or if a woman, some of the masail that were mentioned are these. A woman that literally takes a piece of of an animal's private part and practices with it. Does that break her? Does it cause her to be in a state of janaba or not? Think about it. There are people like that. That's why the ulama mention it over here. قاله أبو الحسن. All right? So the ulama left nothing out. Because remember, this is what it is. Until they mentioned it, it means that it has happened. These are cases that have been risen to them. They have been brought to them. Now, as they are brought forward, the ulama have to look into them. How do they tackle these cases? Understood? Now, وسنن الغسل ولما أنهى الكلام على فرائض الغسل شرع في سننه. When he finished now mentioning the fara'id of ghusl, he talked about the sunnahs, which we did not look into in our previous class. We're going to try cover these sunan and the fada'il and enter into tayammum. If we don't finish tayammum today, we're definitely going to finish tayammum in our next class, so we can enter into salah. And besides me being told by brothers in the masjid, but I've seen with my own eyes, witnessed how people literally fail to fulfill their salahs correctly, especially as a ma'mum. I've seen something personally while leading salah here. When you're standing normally, coming from sujood or maybe coming from ruku', you can see the people behind you. That's how it is. You see the people going up and down. You don't see them fully, but you see a part of them. Sometimes as I just come out of sujood, you literally see someone already standing while you haven't even started Allahu Akbar properly. Imagine that. Now that happens a lot. Mathalan, for example, for those who are on this line, in this front line yesterday, I don't know, it was Maghrib or Isha, one of those prayers. As I get from sujood for Jalsat al-Tashahud, the first Tashahud or the second one, some of those who are here, they will literally get up before me.
I've seen that.
As if they are targeting the Imam to literally get your head up. We'll follow. It's very fast, yes. No. Don't mention those. Yes.
Makes you think it's dangerous, but I think Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, do you not fear that Allah will turn your head into the head of a donkey? The one that goes
Yes. They do say that. And then يتابع الإمام فيها إن قرأ. What does that mean? The ma'mum has to follow the imam once the imam completes his part. The ma'mum doesn't just do what the imam does immediately. وكره التقديم عن إمام. You can't be ahead of the imam. If you do that, it might even lead to breaking your salah because you're not in conformity with the salah of the imam. It's like, for example, you're in a battlefield, and then you have your general commander, isn't it? And he literally provides the commands. He tells you, okay, when to move, when not to. And then you decide to move before even the command has been given. What happens next? You might die. Imagine that. You might die. It is because it's in the battlefield. While you're in salah, it's the same case. Like at this time, it's with you and Allah. But this is not a battlefield. This is a field of rahmah. That's the difference. Understood? So you have to be in formation, and that is following the imam as the imam moves, but being behind the imam in all cases. No. Let's carry it. But remember your question. On Jummah. Yeah. You have.
About this discussion,
You want me to discuss it? Or was it discussed?
tell.
In Jummah.
Yes. Inshallah. So he says, وَأَمَّا سُنَنُهُ فَأَرْبَعَةٌ. فالمصنف رحمه الله تعالى, he says that the sunan of al-ghusl, they are 4. غسل يديه أولا إلى كوعيه في هذه مسائل. In this sunnah, في هذه السنة فيه مسائل. What is مسائل? There are issues related to it. Bear that in mind. Like, I'm not going to mention much. All of what I'm going to say, it is natural for a person who wants to take a ritual bath or a normal shower that they first get their hands wet. But I could say, we could argue for a normal shower, it's not the case. Because you just enter the shower, open the tap, pull up the shower, and that's it. Isn't it? But normally when you're going for a janaba, or maybe a woman who wants to cleanse herself from menses and that, first of all, what do? We all know what you should do. The first thing you do, you clear yourself from al-khabath. Al-khabath means najasa. Any type of impurity on your body, you clean it off first. And as we said in our previous class, we said what? When do you make the intention? Your intention begins as you are heading to take your ritual bath, and to complete it, to begin with, you need to start by cleaning off your private parts. So you do not take a ritual bath while you have khabath or najasa on you. Remember? So when you make that intention, from the time you start washing your private parts or maybe other parts of your body where there is the najasa, you should have started your intention. Otherwise, that part of which you have cleansed would not count. Does that make sense? That part is like, for example, you did not remember to make intention whatsoever while you were doing wudu. Then you've done all of your sunnahs of wudu and you've literally washed your face. By the time you remember, you're washing your left arm, not your right arm anymore. You finished your right arm, you're on your left arm. What happens next? Luckily in the Maliki madhab, there's no starting again. You just have to repeat again what was not included in the intention. Bear that in mind. Understood? So the sunan of ghusl number 1 is غسل يديه أولا إلى كوعيه. To wash your hands first of all to the ku'a. What is ku'a? To the wrist. And it's not the wrist per se. They say that, you see this bone out here, which is a sharp bone, this is known as the wrist. Okay? Sorry, the ku'a. The ku'a. And then they have other names and all of them, mifsal and all of those. Like in al-ku', they say that the ulama, the fuqaha, they say it includes the entire wrist. You don't really have to get into all of those details. It's going to be a bit difficult. Understood? كما في الوضوء, just like wudu. والثانية المضمضة. It is to gargle water and then you have to spit it out. Now we said gargling in wudu. How do you do it? You don't just put water in your mouth and then spit it out. You actually have to move the water around your mouth. The next one is الثالثة الاستنشاق. في الاستنشاق, which is literally sniffing water, we have al-istinthar. If you don't mind pulling that a little bit. That's it. Al-istinthar, it is to do what? To exhale water after you have inhaled water. Isn't it? Now the ulama, if you look at the hashiyah, they mention as well, وَلَمْ يُعَدَّ الْإِسْتِنثَارُ تَبَعًا وَعَدَّ غَيْرُهُ. Okay? What does that mean? وَعَدَّهُ غَيْرُهُ. Some of the ulama say the reason why al-istinthar was not mentioned is because it's not necessary. Whereas some say no, that's not the case. It is natural for the one that inhales water to exhale the water because it shouldn't stay inside. And that is what we're going to take. To make it short, al-istinshaqu, it goes hand in hand with al-istintharu. Now whom else among the madhahib, what other madhab, it makes it wajib, not even a sunnah, to do al-istinshaqu and to do al-madmada and all of those? The Hanabila and the Ahnaf. The Hanabila and the Ahnaf, these two madhahib, what do they say? They say that al-istinshaqu, al-madmadatu, and also your ears, it is what? It is fard, wajib. You have to include it in your ghusl. Now for us is sunnah. If you don't include it, you will be fine. But what should you do? It's best to include it. Now this is where it becomes amazing. The Maliki scholars, they said that because the Hanbaliya take it as wajib, and also the Hanaf, they take it as wajib in their madahib, then you must not miss it. احتياطا للمذاهب الأخرى. So that you safeguard yourself by following the other madhahib. Because according to their understanding, in the madhab, in the Maliki madhab, the dalil and the qarina, okay, the evidence, you're sitting on it, sitting. Yeah. The evidence stands where that these other deeds that you have to do for ghusl, for example, like madmada and that, they stand as sunnah. لكن عند الحنابلة والأحناف stand as wajib. And because of that, احتياطا للأقوال الأخرى في المذاهب الأخرى, you must do it. So it won't just be a regular sunnah, it will be an extremely highly recommended sunnah. Does that make sense? That's how the ulama were. They did not separate one another from one another just because they believe in different madhahib. No. In fact, they respected one another. That's how it was. When it came to Masail al-Hajj, in the Maliki school, that's when we should say the difference between a wajib and a fard. Whereas in the Hanafi school, fard and wajib has always been different in every single chapter of fiqh. Like when it comes to Hajj for us and Umrah, that's when we have a fard and that's when we have a wajib. Now fard for us is the rukn itself. What are the arkan of Hajj, مثلا, in that case? Like when the ulama in the Maliki school were explaining about this, they included the Hanafi madhab in it, saying that we agree with the Ahnaf in this case. That's how the ulama were. And we should be the same. We shouldn't follow what we get from others, where you distinguish yourself from others and you look down on others. No, you shouldn't do that. You should be inclusive but exclusive at the same time. You include and exclude. How do you do that? You have to be well versed in order to do so, because you'll keep the boundary of respect in between, inshallah. The next thing is مسح صماخ الأذنين وهو باطن خرقهما. مسح صماخ الأذنين is, you see the parts where your ears go inside and this part. Now some say that this is the inner part, whereas this is the outer part. And in reality, this is the inner part because it goes all the way to the inside. But the inner part, the outer part is which is on the outside, which should be the back flaps of your ears. Does that make sense? For me, it sounded earlier, I thought this was the inner because it's covered by the head. But actually, that's not the case. This is the outer part because all of this goes on the inside. So this follows together with the inside of the ears. So the flaps are the outside. It's like, for example, your hand. This is the outer part of your hand and this is the inner part of your hand. But if you look at your arm, everything looks out. There's no such thing as in and out, top and bottom. But actually when you do this, all of this is the top part of your arm and this is the lower part of your arm, the bottom part of your arm. That's exactly how it is when it comes to your ears, inshallah ta'ala. Now something you'll notice, which I want you to pay attention to, is this. We started with the fara'id of ghusl, isn't it? Now we looked into the sunan of ghusl. If we look at the fada'il of ghusl, you'll realize the entire process of ghusl goes backwards. It starts backwards. How does it start? It starts with the fada'il, and then the sunan, and then the fara'il. If you want to complete a ghusl, you start from the al-adna. من العدوة الدنيا وهم بالعدوة القصوى. Bear that in mind. And that's what you do over here in this case. You start from al-adna to al-aqsa, to the top. That's what you do. Or in other words, we'll say al-a'la. You wouldn't want to say al-aqsa. Otherwise, they're going to start thinking about Palestine right now. So, فضائل الغسل. فالمصنف رحمه الله تعالى يقول ثم شرع يتكلم على الفضائل فقال وأما فضائله فستة. About its fadail, there are 6 of them. الأولى البدء بإزالة الأذى عن جسده. That's very simple. To begin with removing al-adha, which is najasa, impurity, from his body. And we already mentioned that. How do you do it? With intention, as you do it alone. فثم الثانية إكمال أعضاء وضوئه أيوة, to complete and perfect the bodily parts of wudu. When you finish removing the najasa, the next thing it means is to do what? Wudu. Now comes in the issue of هل يؤخر غسل الرجلين أو يقدم? Does he wash the feet then and there, or does he have the option of delaying it? And we mentioned this in our previous class, and I don't know if anyone remembers.
The feet.
The feet, yes.
You have to do as soon as possible.
Delay, yeah.
Yeah, but the answer is yes and no. فيه تفصيل. There's an explanation that I provided. Does anyone remember?
I wasn't here, but what I know is, I don't know if it's right. If you let your hand dry before washing your feet, you have to repeat it again.
But that's for wudu. Now we're talking about ritual bath and ghusl.
I had a question about the first.
No, keep your question. Don't forget. Yeah.
So the first point of the fadail was to remove the major impurities. How is that a fadail to remove the impurities?
It's because while you take the ritual bath, all the najasa follows along. Because if you decide to just pop into the shower now and you say I'm showering for janaba, the najasa will go and then now goes together with the ritual bath, and then you haven't even done wudu, you haven't even done anything. All you did is just took the actual shower itself only. Get it? Ghusl. Yeah. No, it's fine. So,
The fadail is to wash the whole body.
yeah.
But
تعميم الجسد بالماء.
the fadail is to start from where
Yes.
the impurity is.
That's why I said, you notice, you realize when it comes to the fada'il, the entire process of ghusl, it starts from the very bottom, which is the fada'il. And then it comes to the sunan. Then it comes to the farahid. That's the beauty of it. And if you look at wudu, same case. Nothing different. Same case. Lacking something I want to mention to you. They say here that the fada'il are sittah. لكن when they said that في الحاشية they said لا مفهوم له, there's no understanding of that sort. It doesn't make sense. لأن الفضائل عشرة. The fada'il, they are 10. They are 10. Alami, can you see that? Yes, the fada'il, they are 10. And that's from the very basic, which I'll give you. I wouldn't want to go into details. Now we're going to start with the first 4, and then we're going to mention the other 6 which are here. They say that هذه الأربعة تضم معا. These 4, they are put together. And then you have the other 6, because they are related. Number 1, al-basmala, which is at-tasmiyah, to say Bismillah. Now if you're in the bathroom/toilet, our normal bathrooms, what do you do in that case? Would you be able to say Bismillah outwardly? Because وَنَحِّ ذِكْرَ اللَّهِ حَتْمًا فِي الْخَلَى. You can say before going in, you can keep it within. Because among the آداب قضاء الحاجة وَنَحِّ ذِكْرَ اللَّهِ, you stay away from mentioning Allah hatman, and that's wajib. We said the word hatm is similar to the word hatm. Hatman, similar to the word fard, similar to the word wajib. Yeah, you guys need to revise a lot.
I think I came across something Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu.
Yes.
Because he used to always do dhikr.
Yeah.
So when he would go to use the toilet, he would put stones in his mouth to prevent him from carrying on his dhikr, because that's how he used to it.
That's how the Sahaba were. Uthman ibn Affan, عندما بايع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, after he did bay'ah, gave allegiance to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, using his right hand, he said, from that day, and it was proven by the Sahaba until he died, that hand did not touch his private parts. Yes. It is the hand that gave bay'ah to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Sahaba were always like that. That's why if we want to sit down and compare ourselves to the Sahaba, it will never work. رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. Allah says in the Quran, Me and you, we are nobodies. Trust me, we are nobodies. Especially in this era right now. Let's be honest. There's no heritage. There is no tradition. There's nothing. We don't even know our own cultures. Our children grow up today, they have nothing to connect themselves to themselves. Let alone to connect to reality. They cannot even connect to themselves. Nothing to connect to themselves. For example, Omani by origin, Nigerian by origin, Bangladeshi by origin, Pakistani by origin. Our children grow up today, if you tell them something exists out there as Bangladesh and Pakistan, they go for 1 week, come back. What do they know about their country? What do they know about their culture? Is it the food that mom will cook at home or yourself and say that this is your traditional food? So hold on to your culture by your stomach. What about their clothing? What about the way they dealt with things? How the way they responded, the way they interacted, the way they dealt with in business? Think about it. Every culture has its own miza. When we say miza, something that distinguishes it from another. You cannot be able to understand that until you are extremely invested in that culture and you grew up with that culture. And that's the reality. So it's very difficult for our children. For example, today we use touch screen phones. You tell your child there was a Nokia 33 that existed before. You used to play Snake on it. Would it make sense to him? I remember my son, I don't know, my son or my daughter, one of them, they saw a phone which has buttons. You know what they said? Baba, this is a TV remote. Yeah, think about it.
This is about 20 years ago.
This is literally just 10 years ago. 2014, 2013. Nokia 33, they still existed. What are those Nokias? I don't know, N50 or whatever. You used to flip them and then they use the buttons and that. That was just literally yesterday. And that's how the world has changed. So whatever we have today, we are literally in survival mode. Let's be honest. Forget about the Sahaba, forget about where we are right now. This is survival mode. We cannot be ever, at the very least, like those who were or who existed 200 years ago, let alone 300 or beyond. I'm telling you 200 years ago. Once everything was wiped away and the world order entirely changed and shifted, everything was lost. Ask yourself this. I know this is not the topic it's not a fiqh topic, but it's another type of fiqh which the ulama call it fiqh al-tahawulat. Fiqh al-tahawulat, fiqh of changes. How the world has changed, the world order and all of those. Ask yourself this. Why when we study history, our history only goes as far to maybe not even the medieval ages, maybe around 600 years from now, and after that we are totally disconnected. The only thing we might have is maybe the biblical scriptures that provide us some evidence of what existed before then. But how far would you go with history books or the subject itself of history so you can connect with the past? Ask yourself that. And right now, if you go to Waterstones, if you go to libraries, whether in central London, it doesn't matter. Understood? And students that literally go for PhDs and masters and that, you go to the libraries, the books that and the encyclopedias, the references that they were and they have always been depending on, they are being wiped away slowly. It starts as them being removed from libraries, and then they go digital, and digital they remove what they want from the citations, and that's it. A book that was written in 1960 or 1900, that same book which has been republished again and again and new editions, and you find a new edition of 2024 mathalan, it would not be the same as how it was then. By the time it's 2024, 50% of the book has changed. The original information and knowledge that was in there does not exist anymore. So when we say we are in survival mode, I want you to think like that. Start thinking that way. Rather than thinking of what we have. Think about what can we do to survive, rather than thinking of what we can do to thrive. Because thriving, I'll tell you, is impossible. Economically itself is a problem. Even if you build wealth today, it's like building a house of cards. Anytime you can flip. One way or the other. You can see the riots. You can see the uproar and the uprising. Revolts everywhere. demonstrations. How long do you think it would take after building so much wealth for people to literally take it away from you? Question yourself about that. Nothing is permanent, everything is temporary. So how do you live this temporary life and prepare yourself for the next, which is permanent? The one who created you for your times knew you were best for the time. Don't forget that. The one who created you in your times or for your times knew you were best for the times. If Umar ibn Khattab was to be brought back today, he wouldn't survive even a second. I promise you, the Muslims themselves might even murder him. It sounds really harsh, but that's the reality. Think about it. May Allah help us. Al-Muhim. Al-Ashara, we said that from the four, أولا التسمية. الأولى التسمية, which is saying Bismillah. Number two, الموضع الطاهر. A position, a place which is طاهر, pure. It's a pure place where you do the ghusl. استشعار النية, to literally bring the niyyah in your emotions. Istish'ar, alif, sin and ta. For those who, inshallah, will let you know soon that we're starting an Arabic class in the masjid, but specifically for specific people. Bear that in mind. Alif, sin and ta is among the ahruf al-ziyada, letters which are added in a verb or a word in Arabic. Okay, don't start thinking about it now. I'm just explaining it to you. You learn it in sarf. One of the ma'ani of it is talab. It is to ask. When you seek that thing, it becomes what? Istikhrajtu. I sought to remove. That's what it is. That's when you say extract. Understood? Istish'ar, I sought to feel emotionally. Now what does that mean? You bring forth the emotion of what? Intention. Istish'ar al-niyyah. That's why you say istish'ar. Understood? Or you could, if you say shi'ar, that's different now. Istish'ar al-niyyah, to bring the essence of niyyah inside you. Knowing, okay, you've made the intention. Now what's the purpose of me showering? So that you can constantly remind yourself. And number four is as-sukut. While you're showering, you don't hum. Because movies have been selling us so much where people are showering and then they're humming. Even when little kids watch their shows, you can see they learn that the kids are taking a shower and they're humming and dancing in the toilets. Come on, seriously? Those are not among the adab al-ghusl in the toilet or in the bathroom. It's as-sukut. It is to remain silent, inshallah. So the first one after these four we said, which is going to be number five, al-bad'u bi-izalati al-adha an jasadi, to begin by removing the najasa from the body. Number two, ikmalu a'da'i wudu'ihi. It is to complete the washing of the wudu. Now when it comes to the feet, we said there's a tafsir. This is the tafsir. The ulama, they say, في مسألة تقديم الرجلين أو تأخيرهما عند الغسل. الغسل الواجب مثلا غسل الجنابة. The ghusl which is obligatory, like janaba, or maybe after hayd, or maybe after nifas, when a woman gives birth, and all of those type of ghusl, you can do what? التقديم أحوط. To wash your feet while you're doing wudu, in the process of wudu, it is much better. لإختلاف العلماء, because of the اختلاف of the ulama that they've come up with. And they've even come with a hadith which one of the ummahatul mu'mineen, our mothers, radiyallahu anhun, I forgot her name, subhanallah. She was explaining about how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would do the whole process of wudu at the beginning, and then he would dismiss washing his feet until while he's doing wudu, while doing his ghusl, that's when he will wash his feet as well. Now the ulama, they've interpreted it differently. Some say this is a very clear dalil to show that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not that he forgot to wash his feet, but actually he left it for the ghusl. Like some of them say, this is only a certain scenario where it takes place once in a blue moon, not always. Because if it was to happen frequently, we might have had different types of hadith also, which relates to this. Like this means, perhaps he left it for the end because of reasons. Understood? Lakin to do wudu, to wash your feet while you want to take al-ghusl al-wajib, before taking the shower, it is much better to keep yourself on the safe side. But does it mean if you do not wash your feet and then you wash your feet while you're doing ghusl, it wouldn't be accepted? It would. Understood? It's just a matter of being safe. Being safe doesn't mean that it would not be accepted. Being safe is trying to do what's better. That's what it is. Like when it comes to other types of ghusl, for example, ghusl al-Eid, Eidain, or ghusl al-Jum'ah. Any one of these two, you want to shower because of Jum'ah, you want to shower because of Eid. Any of these, you must do the washing of the feet before you do what? You take the ritual bath, the shower. While you're doing wudu, you wash your feet as well. Why so? لأن العلماء قالوا the ghusl al-wajib, it is hatman alayk. It is wajib upon you to make that wudu, which means, the ghusl itself, it is wajib, it's fard. You have to do it, otherwise you cannot pray, isn't it? And because of this, you have the opportunity or the leeway to delay the washing of your feet. But because these other types of ghusl in themselves, they are sunnah, not fard. Understand the difference? These other type of ghusl, they are sunnah. So the position of washing your feet now does not become as a sunnah is okay. You have to now. Because in this case, you're not doing a ghusl wajib, you're doing just a ghusl sunnah. It does not require you to cleanse from any najasa. It doesn't require you to do intention from the very beginning where you're washing your private parts and all of that. Actually, you can make the intention as you enter the shower whenever you want. Understood? So because it's sunnah, number one, the position where it stands due to how the entire process takes place is obviously extremely different compared to the ghusl, which is wajib. A woman which was on her menses, she has to cleanse her private parts. Now the ulama as well, they had an ikhtilaf on the issue of after you have washed your private part and then you're doing the ghusl, all of a sudden or accidentally you touch your private part. Does your wudu break or not?
Yes.
Yes and no.
No, you mentioned that a lot.
I didn't.
In wudu.
Not in wudu, in ghusl.
No, but in wudu, you mentioned that.
In wudu. Maybe I mentioned masail which were not the time for it.
So that if you touch it, you can touch anywhere, but if you touch this,
Yeah, now. Does it break your wudu, yes or no?
We said if it's not intentionally by mistake,
The hadith which says about intention has been superseded and abrogated by another hadith replaced, which Rasulullah ﷺ mentioned it after the hadith for a while, which saying that man massa dhakarahu, whoever touches private part without intention or with intention, falyatawadda. You have to repeat your wudu, which means it applies the same on al-ghusl. Lakin there's a difference between a man and a woman. Not every case is similar. For a woman, if she touches her private part, she still has her wudu. And she's understood? For a man, it's different. A man, you can touch your testicles, it's fine. But do not touch the main organ, which is the penis. Don't. That is where you break your wudu. Mathalan, you take a shower. It happens a lot. And then while you're wiping yourself, all of a sudden you've had a lovely bath, you're drying yourself, you feel fantastic. Then just a slight part of your finger touches your private part, the organ itself. What do? Go repeat your wudu again. Yes, it might be annoying, but you have to do it. Do you get it? Yes, it is annoying, but you have to do it. That's what it is, inshallah, okay? الثالثة غسل الأعالي قبل الأسافل لشرف الأعالي. What does that mean? It is to wash the upper part of your body before the lower part. Now the ulama explain here why. It's because the upper part of your body contains the most important parts of your entire body as a body. One of them is the intellect. The other one is the five senses. MashaAllah, Abid, welcome. Understood? The five senses, the smelling, the basically smelling, also the hearing, and also the speaking, touching, and all of those. The seeing, sight, and that. Because it contains all of those which are parts of your body, the most honorable ones, and they hold a very high position. What should you do? You have to start with the top and then the lower. Now when it comes to the top, how do you start? How do you start? Where does he mention it somewhere else? Yeah, he says that الرابعة تثليث الرأس بالغسل. Okay, let's finish them off and then I'm going to explain it to you. تثليث الرأس بالغسل is to wash the head 3 times. Now when it came to this, the mas'ala came as, if among the fada'il is to wash your head 3 times, then how about when you're doing wudu? Should it be 3 times as well? Or 1 time is enough? But which one is better in this case? 1 time or 3 times?
1 time.
For the ghusl I'm talking. I'm not talking about the wudu itself. Wudu for ghusl. While you're washing your body parts for wudu, 1 time or 3 times?
1 time.
1 time, isn't it? فالعلماء اختلفوا على ذلك as well. They have opinions which they disputed on this. As they disputed al-mu'tamad, which is the most relied upon, what is it? Best to wash 3 times, just like wudu itself. Understood? And when you are washing your head in this case, it's not wiping on your head anymore. When you're doing the wudu, it's actually washing your head. Does that make sense? So when you are literally putting water on your head while you're doing the wudu, just fill your head with water. لكن الأفضل, what is better when you start washing your head? Start washing from the back. The ulama say it's better, it's not because it's a sharia method. It's because it helps you to not fall into a cold. That's why they say. So when you start from the back, and then you bring it to the front, and your head starts getting some water, by the time you throw water on it, your mind has registered that there's water coming. So you don't have to go through that shock. And then all of a sudden you start feeling cold, you start catching a cold and all of that. Yes. Let me finish. Remember your questions. You had a question? You have a question. والخامسة البدء بالميامن قبل المياسر والسادسة قلة الماء مع إحكام الغسل في الوضوء. Now we're going to complete with this inshallah ta'ala. We don't have time to push for more. However, البدء بالميامن قبل المياسر, what does that mean? It means to begin with the right part of your body before the left. Now, if you're supposed to start with the top, how do you do that? This is how you do it. This is your right part, isn't it? You start washing from the right side of your head and your chest and your back. But you start with your back. Your back first, not your chest first. Does that make sense? Your back first, not your chest first. As you go down, you go all the way to your knees, your right knee. When you finish, you come to your left side. From the left side of your head, all the way to the left side of your back, to your chest, your stomach, all the way to your left knee. And then when you finish now, you go from the right knee all the way to the bottom, and then you go to the left knee all the way to the bottom. That's how you fill your body with water. وَقِلَّةُ الْمَاءِ مَعِ إِحْكَامِ الْغُسْلِ is to use water which is sufficient for you. We mentioned about this. Use as minimum water as you could. But it doesn't mean there's a limit. I can't say 1 liter is enough for everyone. Because if someone weighs 500 pounds, you don't want to weigh that much, isn't it? But if you weigh 500 kgs, then that person will literally need at least 10 liters just to do 1 ghusl. But if a person weighs 5 kilos, like a newborn child, how much do you need? Like 3 cups? Do you get what I mean? Because that's what's going to be sufficient for that. And inshallah ta'ala we'll conclude with this. But remember, look at the fada'il. You notice you start with the fada'il, then you go with the sunan, then you go with the fara'id. So look at the fada'il themselves. Basmala, a clean place, and then bringing the intention first, and then making sure you do what? You remain silent. And as you go to the sunan, basically, then after that, what's the next thing that you do in the fada'il? Sorry? You cleanse the najasa off you, and then after that you start taking the shower in terms of making sure you wash your hands 3 times, and at the same time you do your right side, all of those. Come to the sunan, it's all related to wudu. It's all related to wudu. And then after that, when you come to the fara'id, it's literally the actual bath itself, inshallah. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. In our next class, we're going to look at tayammum and complete it. However, as well, tayammum has masail which is necessary to cover. As in, for example, when can you do tayammum? There are several cases that you could be able to do tayammum. أو إن على نفس ومال خاف أو ثمن الماء نما إجحافا أو خاف باستعماله أو الطلب له خروج الاختيار إذ ذهب. All of those are cases. Okay. Yes, you had a question. Forgot it?
Still, that question is about the Salah. When Imam was leading that of the Surah Fatiha, is it we have to wait the Imam say Ameen and then we say Ameen, or?
No, when the moment the Imam says وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ, you can say Ameen. In fact, in the madhab, the Imam does not say Ameen. Yeah. Even the Ahnaf as well, the Imam doesn't say Ameen. The Hanabila you do. عند الحنابلة you do.
Sorry, my question was regarding the one you said two. I said one, then you said it's three. So is it like the way we do like this? So you have to do like this 3 times, or how do you do it? I was about to ask that question.
If you're doing wudu as wudu, not for the purpose of ghusl, it's just wudu, not ghusl. Because there's wudu which you're doing, then you're going to do ghusl. And then there's wudu that you're definitely coming to salah straight away. That wudu which you're doing for salah, what you do is just wipe your head 3 times. So if you're going to wipe your head 3 times, tajdeedul ma', you renew the water. Get water specifically for number 1, and then again number 2, and then another water number 3, like that, inshallah. That's it. Barakallah fi. I'll see you guys inshallah next week. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Don't need that. See the uploads for the challenges?
What's going on?
They run away.
I haven't watched that.
Run away from
Let me
Muslim
send you the
brothers.
man. You can't keep on giving me all the books.
What's happening with Bangladesh?
Let me send you.
Sheikh
Because it's
Hassan
gonna fly away.
is a good news for Alhamdulillah, isn't it?
Yeah, because
Sheikh Hasina.
The Prime Minister.
Flew away. India.
let me target.
So who's taking over now?
What's that?
Military.
Who?
Military.
Oh, military is taking over.
Army.
So you think it's better? Yeah.
No, no,
There's no more corruption?
no. Corruption.
Always.
You know, always corruption.
Oh,
Corruption.
everywhere.
Corruption already mixed to your blood.
Yes.
Yeah.
It comes from.
Where do you normally find it about food? Like Amazon or
Just search.
Very tired today.
No, just search.
I heard that she's going by helicopter in India. Yeah. Really? So she's looking for support from body.